The sky changed color as thunder and lightning began to strike. The whole village began to tremble and the earth began to shake. Soon, fire started to fall down from the sky, destroying the village of Kosu and its evil inhabitants. Ella watched in tears as fire began to consume Kosu village and as the thunder began to strike and tear things apart. Long time ago, there lived a beautiful and prosperous village called Kosu. Kosu was a village of beauty, with majestic hills, lush meadows, beautiful streams, and good vegetation. However, despite the natural blessings placed on this beautiful village, a lot of the villagers were evil, conceited, and wicked to their neighboring villages. The king of Kosu was a proud, insatiable king driven by a strong appetite for power and glory. Despite the fact that other villages were at peace with him, he wasn't satisfied. He wanted more riches, gold, and power for himself and his village. He also was not scared to use any means to achieve his goal. The king of Kosu began to attack the neighboring villages. There would be serious warfare on the battlefield and the other villagers would put up a strong fight. However, the village of Kosu would eventually end up winning. The king of Kosu would then take the villagers as slaves, take their gold and their belongings. Sometime later, the village of Kosu went on another attack. This time they attacked a village called Madura. However, the warriors of Madura village proved to be too strong for the village of Kosu. The men and fighters of the village of Kosu who survived sustained serious injuries and markings all over their body. The defeat was horrible and the warriors of Kosu retreated back to their village. King Kosu held a meeting with his advisors about how to defeat Madura village. One of the advisors, who happened to be one of only few good persons in the village, then decided to advise the king. He told the king that since their village had conquered a lot of villages already and was already prosperous, they should refrain from attacking Madura village. He explained that Madura village army were too powerful and that most of their men were like giants. He also told the king that if they attacked Madura village again, they would not win and would also lose many of their soldiers. The king of Kosu was furious about the suggestion that he was given by this special advisor. He told the guards to lock him up in the prison. The king then took more men from the villages he had already conquered. He forced them into his army and marched them to fight another battle with Madura village. The king of Kosu ended up losing again. This happened because the men he had added into his army were not warriors. They were mostly traders and farmers who were forced into the army just to satisfy the greed of the king of Kosu. After the second brutal defeat, one of the king's advisors, Mura, who had a heart that was darker than even the most of the evil men in the kingdom, approached the king. He told the king about a forbidden temple that was said to house a powerful dark god that could grant powers beyond what any man could imagine. The king was curious. He was willing to try anything. The next day, he and his advisor, Muten, went with a few guards to the temple. Inside the temple, Mura, who also happened to be a sorcerer, performed a ritual. Muten was able to communicate with the evil god. Muten then told the king that the god required an adolescent girl child as a host. He explained that the evil god could pour its power of fire and lightning into the child, and with the child, the king would be able to win any war he desired. Muten, however, told the king that for the ritual to work, there were two conditions. First, the child parents, Both father and mother must be of a pure heart, and second, their marriage had to happen willingly without the interference of any family or outsider. The king of Kosu then went on a rampage search. He began to separate mother and children, taking the girl child to the evil temple for the ritual. The king took several teenage girls to the temple for the ritual. However, when the fire enveloped the girl child in the temple, the girl will eventually end up dying. This was because either one or both of their parents were not pure-hearted, or because their love was forced. However, everything changed with a child called Ella. The king had already killed 106 girls before Ella. Ella's mother was a widow who had lost her husband and had only Ella as her child. Ella was taken to the evil temple. As she stepped inside, the evil god flame enveloped her, but instead of killing her, the fire did not harm her. Muten then told the king that the ritual was successful and that Ella now carried the power of the god. He however told the king that because Ella was a child of a pure heart parents, that Ella would have a pure heart too. He said that they would not be able to carry the power from Ella, and not even the evil god would be able to do so himself. The powers would forever belong to Ella. The king and Muten then went back to where Ella's mother lived and then killed her. Ella, who saw everything that happened, was crippled on the ground and began to cry. She had now lost the last parent that she had. This was all because of the selfish ambition of the king. Muten then told the king that they would have to take Ella to the palace and control everything about her. When the king arrived at the palace, Mura performed an evil spell and made Ella to forget about her dead parents. He succeeded in being able to remove her memories. The king then convinced Ella that he was her father and that he loved her and would take care of her. All this was just so that Ella would be controlled by them. From time to time, as the king went on more battles, he would carry Ella. He would cover her eyes with cloth. He would then tell her that evil people are ahead of them and want to attack their village to kill everyone. He would tell Ella that only her godlike powers could save everybody. Ella would then stretch her hands and use her powers to rain down a thunderstorm on the opposing warriors. In a few minutes, most of enemies who wanted to fight the soldiers of Kosu village would be defeated. The king would then use his army to do the final blow to the enemies. The king made sure to always cover Ella's eyes because he did not want her to witness the destruction her powers would cause. He didn't want her to become soft or to refuse using her powers because of the death she would cause on the battlefield. With Ella and her godlike powers, there was no battle that the village of Kosu could not win. Time soon passed. In the palace, Ella grew up to become a beautiful girl. However, she noticed that in the palace and outside the palace, everyone was afraid of her. Even the guards that served her food or attended to her would shake and tremble at her. This made Ella to be uncomfortable and sad. However, Ella found peace and friendship with the head maid servant of the palace, a woman named Modu. Modu had only one child, a girl called Delight. Modu, however, would tell Ella stories and treat her like her own daughter. Unlike the rest of the people in the village, Modu had a good heart. Ella and Modu's daughter became friends in the palace and became Ella's only source of joy. As Ella began to grow up, the king told Muten that they needed to assert more control on Ella. Muten then came up with a plan. He told a maid to prepare a meal for Ella, however he placed a poison that would make Ella to be blind. As Ella ate the food, she then became blind after some days. Ella then began to wear a blindfold. This time it was now permanent. The king then placed Modu in charge of Ella to cater for her every need since she would no longer be able to see. The king, however, did not know that Ella and Modu shared a special kind of bond. However, something strange happened after Ella became blind. She realized that she could hear differently and more accurately, unlike any other person. From inside her room, she could hear what the king was discussing with his friends and council at the palace court. She could also hear gossips that the maid spoke of in the kitchen. She was also able to hear what the guards were discussing amongst themselves. When she discovered her newfound powers, she went to meet Modu and told her. Modu told Ella that her new powers was a gift from the gods in order to protect her since she had lost her sight. Modu then told Ella to be vigilant and pay attention to the king and Mura. Weeks and months passed and Ella began to know about the secrets in the palace. She got to find out that the king was not her true father. She also got to know that apart from Modu and the advisor that was jailed because he had advised the king, the rest of the people in the palace had a twisted and wicked mind. Ella also got to know about the evil god and the evil temple that gave her the supernatural power. She found out that the king and Muten were secretly sacrificing children at the beginning of every month to thank the evil god for the power they had now gained. Ella cried for many nights when she realized this. Her view about her village, the king and the palace began to change quickly. Ella also realized that the people of Kosu village maltreated and abused the people and the neighboring villages that she had helped the king to conquer. While taking a stroll outside the palace with the guide of Modu, she would hear slaves crying, mothers being beaten and all manner of evil deeds happening. Ella would go into her room to cry in the night. She would cry because she knew that without her powers the king would not have been able to subdue and enslave all the villages. Soon, Ella also realized that the reason she was blind was because of Muten, the king's special advisor. With her supernatural hearing powers, she heard Muten whispering to himself in his room that as long as she ate the food that he had placed a certain drug on, she would continue to be blind. When Ella realized this, she told Modu to help her. Modu then made sure that Ella was no longer eating the food that Muten poisoned. It was very risky for her. However, with the help of her daughter, Delight, they were able to succeed. Ella, despite all she knew, was still sad because she did not yet know about her real parents. This was because she did not have her old memories. Modu also could not tell Ella anything about her parents because she did not know about them. Some time passed and Muten began to lust after the daughter of Modu, Delight. He told Modu to convince her daughter to give in to her advances unless he would severely punish her. Delight ran into Ella's room to cry. "I don't want to be forced to do anything. I want to love. I want to be free." Delight cried in the laps of Ella. "It's okay, you will be fine. You and your mother will be fine. I promise you," Ella said to Delight. That night as Ella slept, her powers began to overwhelm her. The spell that was used to remove her memories disappeared. Ella then remembered everything that happened to her. She saw how her mother was killed right before her and how she got her powers. When she awoke, she then realized that she could see. Tears dropped from her eyes as she began to cry. She had gotten the answer about her parents and her true identity. She had also gotten her sight. Ella all through the night then cooked up a master plan to end all the evil that was happening around her. In the morning, Ella blindfolded her eyes. When Modu came to attend to her, she told Modu the truth about who she was. She also explained to Modu that she had regained her eyesight. Ella told Modu that if the king knew that she had her eyesight, they may want to harm her again. She told Modu that the evil and corruption in the village was too much and that she wanted to end it. She told Modu that her birthday was coming up in a few days and that the king would throw a very big party for her. Ella told Modu that she would use the party as a way to free all the people that the king had enslaved. Ella told Modu that since she was the head maid in the whole kingdom, she should share a sleeping herb to all the maids to use to cook in their household. This would make the villagers of Kosu village to fall asleep. Modu would also do the same thing for main palace. Once the king, the guards and the wicked citizens of Kosu was asleep, the slaves and captives should pack their belongings and escape. Ella then told Modu that once they are far gone, she would take care of the rest. This is my destiny. I have to bring peace again to all the villages, Ella said to Modu. A few days passed and it was Ella's birthday. There was a huge celebration. It was the only celebration that even the guards were permitted to drink and be merry. This was why Ella knew it was the perfect time to strike. Modu followed the instructions of Ella and everything went smoothly. It didn't take long. Everywhere became quiet as the king, the king's courtmen and even the guards had fallen asleep. It was the go-ahead signal. The people that Kosu village had enslaved began to gather their things in order to escape. Ella also made sure that the king advisor who advised the king not to battle other villages was set free. She did her best to make sure that those who didn't partake in the evil traditions of the village were part of those to escape. Ella hugged Modu and her daughter Delight in tears. Is there no way that you can come and be with us? Delight asked, crying. You will be fine, Ella said to her only friend Delight. Ella hugged Modu and Delight one more time and bid them farewell. She made sure that the people had gone very far from Kosu village. When she could no longer see them, she knew it was now time for her to end the atrocities of Kosu village. The sky changed color as thunder and lightning began to strike. The whole village began to tremble and the earth began to shake. Soon, fire started to fall down from the sky, destroying the village of Kosu and its evil inhabitants. Ella watched in tears as fire began to consume Kosu village and as the thunder began to strike and tear things apart. The village of Kosu burned down to ashes, killing the king, his evil advisor, Muten and all the remaining evil people in the land. Ella then went into the evil temple that was the cause of all the madness, where the hundreds of children had died because of the king. Ella made up her mind that she would die in the floors of the evil temple just like all the other girls who did not survive the evil god's fire. Ella then rained down lightning to break the walls of the evil temple. With her last strength, she set the temple ablaze with fire. The fire burnt and the evil temple was destroyed. And so it came to pass that the lands and villages were once peaceful again. The remaining villages learnt a lesson from the demise of the village of Kosu. They decided not to go to war with each other but rather to remain peaceful. This was to honor the sacrifice of Ella, a young girl who risked everything to restore the lands to its former peace and glory. The tale of Ella became a legend, a tale to remind others about the consequences of being overdrunk with power. We have come to the end of our tale. Please like, share and subscribe for more interesting stories. Till we meet again.